Hear me? Can you hear
Cutting
me?
in, Becky? Yes, we can hear you now, Becky.
Okay, I don't have anything to run the meeting with. I didn't know she wasn't going to be here.
No, I see Julie. She's here now.
Oh, goodness. Thank goodness.
She just popped
Mark,
in.
Mark, it says the Public Art Committee. Do we need to make that correction?
Yeah, let me swap that over.
I didn't know we paid attention.
Thank you.
I didn't know.
Don't bring it
far away.
Yeah.
Totally wasn't even looking at it.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's 2 o'clock. The Code Enforcement Board of the City of Tarpon Springs meeting is called to order. Bobby, would you call the roll, please?
Michelle, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Could you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Miss Wade, Bobby is in with me, but I will be the one doing the meeting today.
Thank you. If you'll call the roll, please.
Chair Wade,
Here.
Vice Chair Archer,
Yes, here.
Mr. Weeks. Is Mr. Weeks absent? Mr. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Robinson,
Here.
Miss Norfleet,
Here.
Miss Tellier,
Here.
and Mr. Perfidio.
He's on mute.
He's here. You're on mute.
Yeah, now I'm squared away.
Okay. Mr. Perfidio, you will be voting today if Mr. Weeks continues to be absent.
Got it.
Thank you.
Mr. Trask, would you give the invocation and lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Heavenly Father, we gather together here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. We meet to serve the city of Tarpon Springs, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and the future and the rights and needs of both individuals and our community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. This we pray. Amen. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We could have everybody put their mics on mute as we go through the meeting.
I'm going to read the procedures for the Code Enforcement Board. It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs for providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of the board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and on the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, this board will close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, normally we would have all witnesses stand up and be sworn in. We're going to do that on a case-by-case basis during this virtual meeting, but we still would like everybody to turn their cell phones off, even at home, so that we don't have any interruptions. And on the agenda today, item number 3 has been moved to affidavits of compliance.
Madam Chair, I have a couple of things for the agenda.
Thank you.
Number 3 was actually complied. So
Yes,
it's
we're gonna
not
move-
gonna be. And then 4 and 5, we deferred
Okay.
to August code board. So we're going to have case number 1, case number 2, and case number 6.
So I don't need to put 3 in the affidavits of compliance section
Correct. There was no affidavit done because they were in compliance prior to this hearing.
prior to me. Okay, thank you for that. All right. If there's no other change, we'll start with new business. Our first item is 19-8000664, 47 West Tarpon Avenue. I believe it's Zoe Coe. Is anyone here for that agenda item? Zoe, are you here, Ms. Coe?
We have 2 raised hands at this time.
Thank you. We're going to have you brought into the meeting, and then we'll have you sworn in.
Can anybody hear me?
Is this a Theo?
Yes. I'm having trouble trying to hook up here. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me.
We can hear you. Can you tell, this is for property 47 West Tarpon Avenue. Can you tell me your relationship to that property, please?
No, I'm not. I don't have anything to do with this. I just wanted to make sure somebody can hear me in the meeting.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to set you to the side for a second. Is anyone else here for the property at 47 West Tarpon Avenue?
We have our hand raised.
Please raise your hand. There's a little button that looks like a hand.
We do have one in attendance. You are unmuted now.
Can you hear us?
It says Ralph Coriglio, I think it said. It came up real fast.
It's Ralph Coriglio from Web Solutions. Can they hear us?
I could not hear that. Could you repeat the name, give me your address, and what your relationship to this property is, please?
47 West Hartman. We're calling from Rent Solutions. We're the property management company for the owner.
Okay.
And you, when you're gonna need to swear you in, Mr. Trask, will you take care of that?
Yes,
If
I'd
you
be
think-
happy to.
Are they
Ma'am, if you could
appropriate?
raise your right hand. And I'm going to swear you under oath. You swear that the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, there are two people there. We need both names then, please.
Gina Schufeld and Ralph Corigliano from Rent Solutions.
Okay, we're only going to have one person speak at a time. So, but we're going to start with the city making its presentation. And then each of you will have an opportunity to address the board after the city has completed its presentation. Do you understand that process?
Yes, we do.
Could I
Okay,
get,
thank you.
I got one name, Ralph, and what was the second name, please?
Gina, Gina Schufeld.
Thank you. All righty. Do you have any legal objection as to why the city evidence should not be received?
No.
Bobby, will you receive this into evidence? And Officer Gasson's going to present the city's case.
Thank you. This is case number 19-800000664. The property address is 47 West Tarpon Avenue. The listed property owner is a Zoe Co. COE. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photographs. Exhibit number 2 are all the notices, to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, administrative documents, case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and letters from the fire marshal. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were mailed to the violator, exact copies of what's being presented to this board. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record based on the Pinellas County property appraiser and tax collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearing are sent both return receipt requested as well as first class mail. And Madam Chair, please accept all these exhibits into the record as evidence.
Thank you, Bobby. Go ahead, please.
Thanks. We have had contact with the owner, numerous phone calls and emails with the property management company as their representative. This case started out September 17th of 2019. Received a call about some issues with the building. When I did the inspection, there was a vehicle in the rear parking lot that had expired tags. Also, there was a hole in the front wall that had been patched with plywood. We mailed a notice of violation at that time, and the first class notice of violation was returned not deliverable as addressed. On October 2nd of 2019, I conducted the reinspection. At that time, the vehicle was still there with no tags. On October 9th, conducted another reinspection. There was the green car was still on the property. Permits for the work had not been final. They had some issues with air conditioning, electrical, and things like that. So they had pulled some city permits, but they hadn't been finalized yet. So the final inspection hadn't been done. As soon as that occurs, then basically this case is in compliance. On December 31st, 2019, the final notice of violation was mailed. The green card was returned from the property management company, signed. The mail to the owner was returned not deliverable as addressed. Conducted another inspection on November 8th of 2019. The vehicle was gone at that time, so that section of the code was in compliance and is no longer for the board's consideration. But the permits were still not signed off on final yet. On February 2nd of 2020, another amended notice of violation was mailed. The green card was returned signed by the property management company, and again, the property owner's not deliverable is addressed. On June 30th of this year, we conducted a reinspection primarily with the fire marshal. He was called in because this is an apartment building and we found some violations that appeared to violate the fire code. He did some basic inspections and we found that permits number 19-2600, 19-2471, and 19-2470 still had not been finalized by the building department. And at that point in time, we were sending a notice of hearing. The permit number 19-2600 shows that it will be expiring on August 19th of this year. I don't, off the top of my head, I'll have to look in the computer to see exactly what that permit's for. The property management company might be able to explain that part better. On June 30th, the notice of hearing was mailed, and we did get the green cards back from the property management company. On June 26th, I posted the property and an affidavit of the posting was signed. We conducted a final inspection on the property yesterday and today. We checked those 3 permits again. They're still not been signed off as final, so they're still open permits. We don't have any way to know if the work's been done up to code because the permit hasn't been finalized. As far as any of the fire violations, which are code 7-12, Captain Kinney was here just before the meeting, and he advised all of those are in compliance. So section 7-12 is not for the board's consideration, as they are all in compliance. So at this point in time, the only violations that are before the board's consideration is City Code 6-1, which allows me to adopt the Florida Building Code under 2017 Florida Building Code, and 105.1, which are permits are required, and the city requires that those permits be completed to fruition and basically signed off on. And that, as of yesterday, has not occurred. So at this point, that's all the city has. You guys have the pictures, but I can put them up if you want. But mainly what it was dealing with was air conditioning and electrical work. They had some external air conditioners put in. So most of the rest of the stuff had been taken care of, but they still had a few open items with those permits. And that's all that's before the board right now.
They don't have any pictures other than what you're gonna show.
Does the board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Hey, Mr. Weeks is joining us, I see.
Yes.
Anyone from the board have a question for Officer Gasson? Is it possible, Officer Gasson, to show us a picture? Is there an open area in the side of the building where these air conditioners were removed?
Yeah, let me screen share first. Hang on.
Thank you.
No, he wasn't. He was already there. Let's see what he shows us right now. I don't know. He already was there. He called me in there. They said he was already there. He already went to the building. And so he's gonna send us a report.
All right, let me scroll through these for you. Change the zoom. This is one of the air conditioning units on the front of the building that we're waiting on those permits to be finalized on. You can see where the hole with the duct tape around it is.
On the second floor, is there a matching one on the first floor?
I can't see anything for the trees, so I don't know
Okay.
how that was done. But that was one of the primary issues. And here's a little bit closer view. As you can see, that doesn't appear to be up to code.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for the city staff?
Well, first,
Now, as the real estate firm representing this property, you have the right to, at this point, just ask a question of him, and then you can present your case after that. Do you have questions for him, for Officer Gasson?
right. So just to clarify, that's definitely not up to code, but we have a mini split that was attached, which is directly below that's secured to the building by a harness or a special platform that's up to code. More importantly, the person that installed.
I think you're, at this point, sir, just as questions, and then you can present your case. So that's the questions for this part.
Right. So then basically the only thing that we need to do to bring it up to code is just to put the siding on. Is that correct?
My part consists of having the final inspection signed off on by the building inspector. As soon as all of your open permits are signed off on, then the code case is closed. So whatever is required for those 3 permits to be finalized, and it could be different things because I believe one of them is electrical, and then one of them deals with the air conditioning. And once those are signed off on, the code case would be compliant.
Okay. So then that's all. So then I will get the contractor to actually close all those permits as soon as possible.
At this time, would the Owner or respondent, like to present your case, please.
One of them's not expired.
Steve, can you unshare the photo? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Once again, Ralph, would you like to present your case?
Right, so, yeah, so, you know, in reference to the open permits and the delays on getting these things done. One thing that has happened that has kind of pushed us back is a lot of these vendors that we've been using have been, you know, giving us the runaround. You know, we're trying as hard as we can to try to get these things done, but I think it's based on the, you know, coronavirus, things have just kind of slowed to a very slow pace. We're a property management organization and it's just getting much, much harder to get things done quickly. So we sincerely apologize. We want to close this out as quickly as possible, but because of the coronavirus, it has slowed a lot of these things down. But I've already spoken to both the electrical contractor, I've spoken to the AC contractor. They've already promised me that they'll get down there within no later than next week. From that point on, they can't give me an exact date, but I'm just asking for an additional, you know, 30 days to close out the remaining permits and also fix the siding. That can also be done right away. I'm going to have somebody probably go out this weekend just to finish the siding. And that is the last remaining cutout in the building. So we sincerely apologize for the delays, but we would like to get this closed out as soon as possible. But I need an additional 30 days on closing the permits out and having the reinspection. However, we're going to do that. That's another thing too, is the counties are not, you know, it's also moving slowly on that side too. So
That's why
we-
it's delayed.
right. So Gina, is there anything else that we can?
One of the permits, what had happened was with 19-2600, it was initially disapproved and then it was interior that they also had to go in. And because of the coronavirus, the vendor was refusing to go inside of the building. There's I think 6 tenants living in there, but now they are back to work. And he said he had until August 19th to close it out.
Does the board have any questions for the owner or the respondent? I have one question. You have people living in this building currently,
Yes,
and the fire codes have been accepted.
Correct.
correct. And the fire marshal apparently has signed off. We had all the electrical taken care of that he asked us to do.
Madam Chair.
Anyone else have a question? City staff, do you have a question for the owner?
I do actually. I just looked at the permits and 19-2471 is actually expired. That was one of the mechanical permits. So it looks like they may have to have that one reopened. Same with 2470. And 2600 is the one she was just referencing and it will expire on August 19th. So 2 of those permits are expired as of right now.
2470 and 2471 are expired. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, so you're going to need to get with the city and just see if they can either reopen them or if they have to be reapplied.
Okay. We also,
Staff, would you?
I'm sorry, we also consulted with R.A. Gonzalez, which is the general contractor who actually met with us yesterday and told us he would step in if we had any further pushback from the vendors that we're dealing with. So we got another general contractor involved just to help us along, as we don't understand a lot of what you guys are discussing with the permits and what is needed.
Right, so you're thinking you need 30 days.
Correct.
Staff, would you like to summarize?
I have no summary. Thank you.
Unless anyone else has a question, the public portion of the case is now closed. And I'm ready to entertain a motion from the board.
I move that based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law, that at the time of the alleged violation, sections City Code 6-1, FBC 105.1 permit, City Code 7-12 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
I think I'm sorry to interrupt you. We need to remove 7-12 from that motion if you'd like to remake your motion.
I'll move to eliminate that.
Okay, we have a motion. Does anybody like to second?
Second, my son.
Thank you. Bobby, call for question. Can we have a vote, please?
Ms. Tellier,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Here.
Vice
Yes.
Vice Chair Archer,
Yes.
Chair Wade.
Yes. And if no one else has any questions, I think we're ready for part 2. I'm sorry, Michelle, I asked Bobby to take the.
That's okay.
I move that the respondent shall have 30 days to bring the property into compliance with code sections 6-1, 7.12 of the code of, to bring the code, sorry. Which one did I,
Second
Madam
motion.
Chair? Which one did I say, did you say to disregard?
The third one, the city code 7-12 is not included.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. Let me try it again. I move that the respondent shall have 30 days to bring the property into compliance with code sections 6-1, 105.1 FBC of the, to bring the property into compliance or suffer a fine of $50 a day for each day thereafter the respondent remain in violation of said code.
Second.
Does anybody have a discussion on that? I was going to give them until their permit ran out, which was the 19th. It's just a little more than the 30 days. Would you be willing to modify your motion to do that, Mr. Weeks?
I'm not willing to. 30 days is enough.
Okay, Michelle will vote on his.
Okay, just for the record, so I can put a compliance date, that would be August 9th.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Tellier,
No.
Ms. Norfleet, Ms. Norfleet,
You might need to unmute Ms. Norfleet.
Ms. Norfleet, you're muted.
Yes. Okay, yes.
Yes. Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Archer,
Yes.
Chair Wade.
No, only because I thought they might need a little longer.
Okay, motion carried 5-2.
Understood. I'll have the attorney summarize this for you folks, for Ralph and Gina.
Thank you.
Mr. Trask, if you'll summarize for us.
Yes, I'm sorry. You clicked out for just a second. So the property owner, Zoe Coe at 47 West Tarpon Avenue, has been found in violation of City Code Section 6-1 and the Florida Building Code Section 105.1 and given until August 9th, 2020 to come into compliance. And should it not be brought into compliance by that date, a fine of $50 a day will be levied. An order will be entered within about the next 10 days and mailed to the property owner at the address listed with the property appraiser's address. If you have any questions about what has happened today, feel free to call the Code Enforcement Department and they will provide you with any additional information that you may need.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for talking with us and getting it worked out.
Well, thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
Y'all too. Case number 2, 20-8000008, 626 Eunice Drive, Ken Sobel. Is there anyone here for that property? Please touch the little hand raise button and Mr. Jump will let you in.
We have one raised hand at this time. I'll allow them in.
Thank you.
Which one is mine?
This is Ken Sobel.
Thank you, Mr. Sobel. We need to swear you in. Would you raise your hand, please, and Mr. Trask will swear you in.
Sir, do you swear that testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Why did I write it?
I did.
Thank you.
And Mr. Sobel, would you confirm your address, please, for the record?
626 Eunice Drive, Tarpon
Thank you.
Springs.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, for the record, the city has a witness as well. It's Officer or Detective Jake Miller, who was sworn when Mr. Trask swore, and the other witness.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sobel, do you have any legal objection as to why the city evidence should not be received?
No.
Thank you very much. Officer Gasson, and I'm sorry, the other officer's name is?
It's Detective Jake Miller, common spelling.
Yes, sir. You and Detective Miller, would you please present the city's case?
Thank you. This is case number, I'm Officer Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement, case number 20-8000008. The address is 626 Eunice Drive. The property owner is Mr. Ken Sobel. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all my photographs. And one caveat to that, Madam Chair, is we added a couple of photographs today. And can we confirm that Mr. Sobel got those newly? No. We will be showing new photographs that we just added within like the last hour. And I'll point those out in particular when they come up. So Mr. Sobel has an opportunity, if that's acceptable, Mr. Trask.
It's your case in chief. If you want to present them in your case in chief, you can go ahead and do that. You're just going to need to show them on the screen so that everybody can see them through your screen share.
I will do that. Thank you. So all the photographs are exhibit number 1. Exhibit number 2, all of our notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit 3, administrative documents, case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, it's the incident detail report, which was the associated police case report that was done with this. It's our summary from our computer-aided dispatch system. And then the exhibit number 4 is my affidavit of posting and a copy of that sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were mailed to the violator, exact copies of what's being presented to the board, as well as the additional photographs I'll present here in a little bit. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All the notice of violations and notice of hearing are sent, return receipt requested, as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chair, please accept these into the record as evidence.
Thank you. Michelle, will you do that, please?
We have had contact with the owner, both via phone calls and in person. This case originally started out with Detective Miller, and I'll ask him some questions here at the end. On January 9th of this year, the initial inspection was done. He forwarded me a case through our system. I believe it was related to a police call at the address. He also sent me some pictures at that time, which are already presented. The pool was being not sanitary. It was green, not being maintained. The interior of the house was unsanitary. The property's not being maintained. There's trash and debris on the property. At that time, before he was in detectives, Officer Miller reported that case under TS 20-865. I had since been out to the property and seen the exterior of it. Until today, I'd not been inside of the house. So on January 13th, we mailed the notice of violation. It was returned unclaimed. On April 6th of this year, I conducted the reinspection. I'm sorry, I didn't conduct the reinspection. Officer McIsaac had gone out there or Corporal McIsaac went out for another call, and the pool was still green. I had also additionally been out there and noticed the exterior of the property was still not mowed. The staircase, which you'll see in one of the pictures, was nearly falling over. There are parts of the ceiling in the carport area that are falling down, and then trash and debris around the property. On June 15th of this year, the notice of hearing was mailed, and we received no return mail from that. On January 26th of this year, I posted the property for this hearing. And then, as I stated, I conducted a final inspection yesterday and noted that the grass had been cut on the southern side of the property, but there is still trash and debris on the property on the south side. I'm unable to see the pool from the right of way. As of today, we have now been to the residence 4 times and recovered 4 juvenile runaways that are staying in the property. That resulted in me going out there at about noon today and saw that the pool was still green and the property is still not being maintained and is in pretty significant disarray. So right now before the board, the violations of City Code 8-22 for the accumulation of trash, 8-40, 8-52, numerous violations of IPMC. 6-1 allows me to use the 2018 IPMC, specifically IPMC 303.1, which deals with swimming pools, spas, 303.2, which are the enclosures, they have to be enclosed. 304.1, general exterior of the structure has to be intact, ceiling can't fall down, walls can't be coming apart. 304.10 deals with the stairs, the decks, and the balconies. And the staircase is basically one of the main ones on the southern side of the house. It's nearly falling off of the house. Kind of scary to walk up, actually. The 304.12 of IPMC deals with the handrails and the guardrails. 304.6, again, the exterior walls in particular have to be painted, coated, and watertight. The general interior of the house was in disarray and very unkept, which is 305.1 of the IPMC. 308.1 just deals with the accumulation of rubbish and garbage. And then at the time, the trash cans were still out on the curb. I honestly didn't notice that today. I wasn't looking for that at the time. If the board would like, I could present the photographs that we just added, which are outside of what was shown earlier or previously given to the board in the violator.
They've not.
If Mr. Sobel has not yet seen those, he should have a chance to accept or object to those before we present them.
I have no objection.
Thank you, Mr. Sobel. And Officer Gasson, is item number 1, 8-16 pre-collection practices still in play or not?
Actually, we can take that off because at this point, like I said, I didn't see the inspection on it today, and I didn't see the trash cans out at curbside, so we can remove that one from the board's consideration.
Thank you. If you'd present that
All
visual.
right, let me start
evidence,
screen sharing then.
Thank you.
First off, I just want to establish, because I didn't take these pictures, so I'd like to present Detective Miller just to establish that these photographs were taken by him and not me, onto the validity of the photographs.
Do you want to change the view?
Yeah, hang on. Let me stop sharing so you guys can see Sergeant or Detective Miller. Detective Miller, these photographs dated January 9th of 2020. These were taken by you, correct?
Yes, they were.
To you, the best of your knowledge, do they accurately represent the condition of the house and the property at the time you took those photographs?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let me go back to screen sharing on those. So this is the pool area. As you can see, it's fairly bad shape. It's green, obviously, and it's not sanitary, and the pump is not functioning. Matter of fact, when I went out there today, there was some wildlife swimming around inside the pool, fish and tadpoles. This is the exterior of the house. There's a lower portion of it here showing some of the trash and debris. It's kind of difficult to see, but in this carport area, some of the ceiling is falling down. You'll see some better pictures of that here in a minute as we scroll through the photographs. Another picture of the patio area in the pool. And like I said, the condition of it hasn't changed when I looked at it today. Some of the screened in areas have holes in them, making it unsecure for this pool, which is also bad because if somebody was to fall on it, you wouldn't be able to see them on the bottom of the pool. Hello. Sorry about that.
Steve, we can't see any photographs other than the first three you talked about.
Okay.
There we go.
They're probably catching up.
Okay.
Can you change that view to where it was?
Hang on a second.
Remember how you changed the other one?
Yeah, let me choose the view.
That might help.
Is that better? So these are still the ones that were taken January 9th by Detective Miller. This is the inside of the carport area. And as you can see here, and as a matter of fact, you'll see, I think I have some more recent pictures of this. These holes have gotten significantly larger because I believe Mr. Sobel even told me today that there's a leak. So it's causing it. And above this is living area. This is a staircase. It's very hard to depict this in pictures, but this is at a significant angle and you can see this is actually not attached anymore up in this area up here. And couple of, I think this board actually, if you step on this end, the board flips up and cantilevers on you. It's an interesting staircase to go up at best. And that's the primary living area is upstairs. Mr. Sobel was staying downstairs when we met with him. Exterior of the house again. These were, I don't have Corporal McIsaac here. This was an April photograph that he took and was forwarded to me of the pool, just basically showing it still was unkept. These photographs were taken again by Detective Miller when he went out there on one of the recovered juvenile runaway calls at the house. Just some brief pictures of the interior of the house. Large hole in the wall. Over here, this area is all kind of caved in the wall. And again, the pool, and this was on July 2nd. These are, now these pictures were taken today, again by Detective Miller, and these are the ones that Mr. Sobel has not seen. So if you would like, I can just go through them and he can raise an objection.
Mr. Trask, how do we do that part? I think when we asked Mr. Sobel, he said that was fine.
Okay. So this is I believe the northern side of the house, showing the debris, the pool pump filter. There's a filter laying on the ground right here and some other trash and debris. Earlier, I said I would show you some pictures of these small holes that become bigger. Well, these are the bigger holes. And then again, the pool. And at this point, that's all the photographs that I have from the city.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Detective Miller or Officer Gaston? Mr. Sobel, do you have any? This will be just the questions part, and you'll get to present your case next. Mr. Sobel, do you have any questions for either of the Tarpon officers?
No.
All right. If that's the case, Mr. Sobel, you get to present your case next. Go ahead.
Well, first thing I want to point out is that if you look at that last photograph, you'll notice that the color of the pool is much lighter. I've already poured 20 gallons of chlorine into it, and I plan to do another batch tomorrow. And I also said that I would clean out the filter. So I think that will take care of the pool issue. The holes in the carport were caused by floods that occurred because of a bad washing machine in one case and a leak in the bathroom in the other case. And those leaks no longer exist, but obviously the damage is still there. Most of the garbage has been picked up. As a matter of fact, I filled 4 cans of garbage last night and put them out to be collected. And there is some more around, but that's relatively easy to pick up. I also repaired the screening of the pool that was broken. And but the staircase is a big one. Cleaning up inside the house upstairs is not a big problem either. The staircase and the holes in the carport I see as the ones that is going to take me some time.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, I don't think I have anything more to say about it.
Would the board like to ask Mr. Sobel some questions? No one on the board? I do have some questions. This started in January, Mr. Sobel, and we're 7 months along, and it sounds like you're still working on these issues.
Well, no, actually, if you look at the photographs from January, you'll see a truck and a number of cars in the carport, which are no longer here and actually haven't been here for quite a number of months. So those early photographs he was showing from January, none of those exist today. So it really didn't start until I got this notice a couple of weeks ago.
There was a notice of violation sent in January.
I didn't receive anything in January.
Other board members?
This one that I received is dated June 15th.
Yeah, his notice in January was returned unclaimed, so they attempted to mail it, but he did not claim it.
Were you not living there then, Mr. Sobel?
No, I was living there and I would have claimed it if it was there. So I don't know what happened to it, but I never received it.
If no other board members have a question, Code Enforcement, would you like to ask him some questions?
I don't have any questions specifically, just a brief summary.
All right, go ahead.
This isn't a new case with Mr. Sobel. We've had prior ones with the property not being maintained and is a public nuisance. It's kind of an ongoing issue. I'm looking at a case from February of 2019. Primarily at that time, it was exterior issues. For the most part, they were taken care of. I've had numerous neighbor complaints about the pool. Unfortunately, I can't go into the backyard without someone's permission. So it wasn't until the officers went out and conducted a welfare check on Mr. Sobel. That was the primary reason why Detective Miller was out there to check his status, that we were able to see the condition of the pool. So it's not just something that's been the last month. This has been a significant, and as a matter of fact, I believe, but Detective Miller would have to answer this. Did you have any contact with him in January?
January, yes. I went out there for a welfare check on January 9th and actually made contact with Mr. Sobel while I was standing in the patio, the back patio by the pool during the welfare check for him.
Did you by chance mention the pool or say anything about the pool to him?
I did make a comment about just the condition of the pool and the upkeep of the property because I did have to go. I was escorted by a tenant at the time up those stairs on the south side of the house. And I noticed that as I was walking up, they were canted to the right-hand side. So I had to stay on the left-hand side. So, I was worried about the stairs collapsing. That was a primary means of entrance and egress up to the living quarters up on the second floor. When I got to the second floor deck, I had to walk to the back and down another set of stairs that's where I found Mr. Sobel, where he resides in the back on the first floor of the residence.
Thank you. The city doesn't have anything further.
Mr. Sobel, would you like to summarize your case?
Well, I'm taking care of the pool now. I know it's been a problem, but I only have my Social Security as income, so it's been difficult for me to be able to afford all these repairs, and I'm without a car right now, so it's not easy for me to get around to get things done either. So other than that, I'm going to need some time, particularly for the staircase, because that's going to be a big, expensive job. So I think I'm going to need a couple of my Social Security checks, which I get on the 3rd of each month, in order to start paying for a repair like that.
The public portion of the case is now closed. Board, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Julie.
Thank you.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections City Code 8-22, City Code 8-40, City Code 8-52, City Code 6-1, in violation of IPMC 303-1.1, in violation of IPM 303.2, in violation of IPM 304.1, in violation of 304.10, in violation of 304.12, in violation of 304.6, in violation of 305.1, in violation of 308.1, were in effect in the city of Tappan Springs, were in force and effect, and the respondent was in violation thereof.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Michelle, would you like to take a roll call, please? Michelle, roll call, please.
Ms. Pellier,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks, Mr.
Unmute.
Mr. Weeks, you're muted.
Not anymore. Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Archer
Yes.
and Chair Wade.
Yes. And then we're going to need a second motion, and I think we already heard from the property owner what he feels he needs. Could I hear a second motion from the board, please? Or Cindy, do you have any input before we do that?
Yes, actually, I mean, the other caveat to this, because there's a few of them with this, he's renting out this property, which is unfortunately going to become another code case that we discovered through our investigations. And so this house is bordering on one unsanitary. I'm going to have to get the building department involved possibly for structural issues. So I've referred him today to Beth to try to see if there's some senior help places that might be able to help him get this taken care of, but it's rapidly approaching the possibility of becoming condemnable because it is in pretty serious shape. So I don't necessarily know if there's a lot of time or large fines that are going to motivate that because of his situation, but I think that he's got to start dealing with this within the next 30 to 45 days. And as far as the fine goes, I'll leave that strictly to the board for their thoughts on that.
Thank you very much. Could I hear a motion from the board, please?
I move that the respondent shall have until September 2nd to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 6-1 of City Code, IPMC 303.1, 303.2, 304.1, 304.10, 304.12, 304.16, 305.1, and 308.1, or suffer a fine of $25 a day thereafter, they remain in violation of said codes.
Will you repeat the date that you suggested?
Right now, Julie, I suggested till September 2nd. That's 45 days, as Officer Gasson mentioned.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Michelle, would you like to call the vote, please?
Ms. Tellier,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
You're on mute.
Ms. Norfleet, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson,
No.
Mr. Kramer,
Qualified, yes.
Mr. Weeks,
No.
Vice Chair Archer,
Yes.
Chair Wade.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Trask is going to, Mr. Sobel, Mr. Trask is going to tell you what's taken place, but I can tell you that the board has some real strong concerns about this and that we need to get moving on this. Go ahead and summarize, please, Mr. Trask.
Mr. Sobel, you've been found in violation of the cited code sections. You've been given until September 2nd of this year to bring the property into compliance. Should you fail to do it by September 2nd, there's going to be a $25 a day fine. The board will enter an order. That order will be issued within the next 10 days and sent to you at your home address at 626 Eunice Drive. If you have any questions about what has happened today, feel free to call the Code Enforcement Department after the hearing.
You understand, Mr. Sobel?
Yes, I do.
You got to get going on this. Thank you. The next case, we're skipping down to item number 6, which is a repeat violator case. 20-8000098, a vacant lot on Marigos, George and Antonia Corpius. Is there a hand raised?
We do have one in attendance. I'll bring them in.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Dan, could you,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
yes, we can hear you. We need to establish your relationship to the property and then swear you in. Your name is coming up as Theo, but we have down listed as George or Antonia. What's your relationship to the property, please?
That's my parents. I sent a notarized letter to Beth about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, along with some pictures. I don't know if she got them in time.
Mr. Trask, do you have that so that he can represent his property?
Yes, that's going to be fine. I don't have the paperwork, but he's testifying under oath that he has the consent, so that's fine.
Just swear him in.
Yeah, I just need to swear him in on that. So, Mr. Corpius, if you could raise your right hand, I'm going to swear you're under oath. Swear that the testimony I'm about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, about the truth.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you just made a statement before you were sworn under oath that you have consent of your parents to speak on their behalf. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. The city is going to go ahead and proceed, and then you'll have your opportunity to address the board.
Okay.
In the meantime, can you mute your phone because we've got a lot of feedback?
That's better. Thank you. Again, this is agenda item 20-8000098, a vacant lot on Marigos, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, owned by George and Antonio Corpius, and Theo Corpius is representing them today. This is a repeat violation of City Code 8-40 and 8-52. Do Mr. Corpius have any legal objection as to why the city evidence should not be received? Now you'll have to unmute to answer the question, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm new at this.
I know.
Okay, to answer the question, yeah, I think this should be thrown out for the reason that.
No. This is just one question. It's a yes or no answer. Do you have any legal objection to the city presenting the evidence of their case?
No.
Thank you. Michelle, if you'll mark the evidence is received and the city staff will present their case.
Thank you, Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. This is a repeat violator case number 20-8000098. It stems from the case he was established, which was 18-800000557. That case was a violation of 8-40 and 8-52. And as we stated in that case, they were simply established. There were no fines assessed. It was in compliance by the time of the board hearing. The address is a vacant lot of Maragos with parcel number 12-27-15-41220-000-0050. Listed owner George and Antonio Corfius. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of the photographs. Exhibit number 2, all the notices to include notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are administrative documents, case summary, previous board orders, property appraiser and tax collector records. Exhibit 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. And exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator, exact copies of what's being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. And all notice of violations and notice of hearing are sent return receipt as well as first class mail. And I believe you've already accepted them, but please accept these into the record as evidence.
Thank you.
The city has had contact with the son and his attorney. The case initially started out on March 2nd. We got a complaint about a small trailer with debris in it and also some vegetative debris dumped on the property in the form of some palm fronds. On March 2nd, the notice of violation and the repeat violator notice of hearing were mailed. No green cards were returned. On March 5th, conducted a reinspection and the property was in compliance. On March 24th, we did a deferral to move it out a couple of months at the request of the attorney. On May 21st, the virtual notice of hearing was mailed. On May 29th, I posted the property and the affidavit of posting was signed. On June 12th of this year, the deferral notice was mailed to the property owner and to the attorney. For the record, the property was in violation for a period of 3 days from March 2nd to compliance date of March 5th. And now if you'd like, I could present, I have one photo and I believe Mr. Corfius, he presented some photos that I'll be able to put up when he presents his case, if that's how we'd like to work it.
That sounds like a good plan.
This is the property in question. This was the utility trailer, the vegetative debris, tree branches, and then some of this other palm frond type thing. This was taken on March 2nd. And then as I stated, it was re-inspected on March 5th and it was in compliance. So it was a period of 3 days where it was out of compliance. Those are all of the city's pictures. And basically that's the city's case at this point in time.
Does the board have any questions for Officer Gasson?
Put us back online. Excuse me.
Just the board this time, then we'll get back to you, Mr. Corfius. Mr. Jump, any hands? Does the owner, Mr. Corfius, do you have any questions for city staff? Now you can unmute.
Hey, ma'am, can you hear? I'm sorry, can you hear anything at this point?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
If I could identify myself, I just arrived here. My name is Simos Angeles.
Oh, that's Angeles. That's Simos.
Yeah, I apologize. I was delayed in joining a meeting because I was taking care of a relative. But
who is this?
Ma'am, my name is Simos, spelled C-I-M-O-S. Last name Angeles, A-N-G-E-L-I-S. My office address is 642 East Tarpon Avenue in the city of Tarpon Springs. I'm an attorney. I have both the authority of Mr. Corfius, George Corfius, and also his son, Theo Corfius, who lives on the property, to speak on their behalf.
I'll need you to be sworn in.
Yes, ma'am, I'll be glad to.
Seamless.
I'm an attorney.
He's an attorney and he
Yeah,
does
have
not
to.
need to be sworn in as an
He
attorney.
does
He's an
not need to be
officer of
sworn
the
in?
court.
Okay,
That's correct.
all right. Okay, then then you get to ask questions of the officer. We didn't get your part of that.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, that'd be fine. Officer Gasson, when you arrived at the property, I know that there's one photograph. It shows both, the trailer, which is back at the back section of the empty lot, and also some palm fronds in the front. That was the only visual debris that was available at that time. Is that right? There wasn't any other piles or anything else that was located on the property?
Just the two, the pile of trees back by the trailer and then the small pile of palm fronds more towards the alley side.
Okay, is it fair to say that the palm fronds would you estimate, since you saw them in person, that there was no more than 10 or 15 palm fronds in that pile?
That's reasonable.
And is it also true that they were placed almost immediately under a palm tree that's at the end of the driveway on the parcel that has the house? In other words, they're palm fronds that they were near that palm tree.
I can't tell, but I don't have a reason to argue with. I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt that.
Okay, I understand, sir. And I'm just trying to make a point. And then the debris that's back.
This is just questions. This is just questions. You can ask, you can present your case in a minute.
Yes, ma'am. The question that I'm going to ask him is regarding now the debris that was near the trailer, not on the trailer, but near the trailer. As my understanding, there are some branches that you can see in the photograph immediately to the right of the trailer.
Correct.
My question is, Officer Gasson, do you recognize those to be limbs that were taken off of this mango tree that's also in the driveway here at the property?
I honestly can't tell you where those are from. I know like two kinds of trees.
No, I understand. Again, I understand completely if you can't. But is it fair to say that that the branches that were there, as far as, and I'm not going to ask you for an exact number, but that pile of branches was probably a half a dozen branches that are no more than 2.5 to 3 foot tall sitting next to the trailer?
Again, I have no reason to argue. I didn't go up onto the property and count them. I just took the picture of them from the alley. So what you see is.
No, I understand, sir.
If that's what you say it is, I don't have a reason to argue with it.
Well, I'm saying from the description and from what you see in the picture, is that an unreasonable description of what was there?
By no means. That's a reasonable description. Absolutely.
Okay. And sir, I'm going to ask you now if we can turn our attention to what was actually physically on the trailer. It's been identified as the storage of debris. Did you actually get the chance to see what was actually on the trailer?
No, because again, I didn't go up onto the property. And for also, just so you understand, CMOS, 43.00 was a separate violation that's not before the board's consideration, right, because it was brought into compliance. So kind of it's a moot point, the 43.00, and we're just dealing with the tree branches more or less for the 3 days.
Then I'll limit myself to that.
Okay.
I guess. Did you see any other instances on the property that indicated that it was in any kind of disrepair, or that there were any unusual growths or anything that would violate the code?
No, I mean, the only other thing from the city's picture, there's a bunch of empty canisters on a kind of a brick, I don't know if it's part of an old foundation or what, but beyond that, and I'm not sure if that's even on that subject property, but beyond that, no, it was, other than the vegetative debris, and seemed to be maintained.
And again, I think it's I'm sorry, Officer Gasson, the reason I'm asking these questions, would it appear that the debris that you saw there, would that be consistent with the regular maintenance of property?
I don't have any idea. It could have been dumped. It could have been regular maintenance. They appeared fairly dried up. I don't see in the picture where the other tree is, because even the picture that we haven't presented yet, but I've been privy to it, from your client only shows palm trees. It doesn't show any other trees in the area. So I don't know how it got there.
No,
All
I
I know is
understand.
it was there. We got a complaint about it and it was there.
And I understand, sir. And again, we're not contesting any of that. I'm just trying to lay a
understand.
foundation for the argument that I'm going to make shortly. Do you remember? And if you don't, that's fine. When you actually took the photograph, you're familiar with the area. The empty lot is immediately adjacent to a parcel that has the house on it. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
And there is a driveway where vehicles are parked that is basically adjoining both of the properties together. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, I think it has, is it the one that has the cutout driveway at the
Right.
alley side?
Yes,
Yeah, I
sir.
do remember that. Yes.
Okay. Do you remember seeing the mango trees that are at the edge of the back of the driveway?
I don't. I don't see most, but I don't doubt they're there, but I just don't recall them.
Again, I apologize. I'm not trying to belabor that point. I'm just
No,
trying
it's
to
okay.
establish some things to show where those items came from. Now the complaint that you received, as I understand it, that's from the adjoining property owner that is the head of the homeowners association on those elevated townhouses. Is that correct?
All I can tell you is the phone number that it came from.
Okay.
I honestly don't know who complained other than somebody from 510-3934.
I understand, sir. But are you familiar with the way that the balconies are on those three-story townhouses?
Vaguely. I mean, there's one showing in the picture and I'm vaguely familiar with them. Yes.
And those are immediately adjacent to and overriding the property that's in question here today, right?
Correct.
Okay, I don't have any further questions, sir.
Good. Would you like to present your case, please?
Yes, ma'am. If I could, I'm gonna put Mr. Theo Corfius on as a witness and just ask him a couple of questions, and then I'll open him up to cross-examination by Officer Gass. I believe he's previously been sworn under oath. Is that correct?
Yes, Theo was sworn.
Please identify yourself, correct?
Madam Chair, if I could just for a second, Simos, do you want me to put these pictures up that Theo presented to us?
Fine, Officer Gass, thank you very much.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put them up.
The photograph that's on the screen, can you identify that photograph, Mr. Corfius?
Yes, that's the homeowner association president.
But can you say where is this what is depicted in the photograph?
Not relevant.
This is the corner of the property from the, let's see, the east side of the property facing southwest.
Now where there's three buildings depicted on the backside. Is the trailer, would it have been positioned right in this where the center building is?
Yes.
Okay, and in the upper right-hand corner of the photograph where you see a palm tree that appears on the edge of the screen, is that the palm tree that's located on the parcel which contains your house?
Yes, and right behind it is the mango tree.
Okay, is that now if we can go back to, we don't need to change the photographs, but I want to refer him to the pile of palm fronds in the yard. Can you describe where the pile of palm fronds were on the city's photograph? Where did they come from?
That palm tree right there in the upper right corner of the picture.
And can you describe how many palm fronds were there?
4 or 5.
And how did they come to be placed where they were? What was the purpose for having them there?
They fell out of the tree from the wind from the inside, and I put them on the outside. So when I pulled the trailer out with the rest of the debris, to pick them up and move them, and take them out.
Now let's talk about the branches that are depicted in the city's photograph that are to the right of the trailer.
Yes.
Can you describe for the board where those branches came from?
Okay, those are branches from my mango tree. They were overhanging onto the my camper RV that I have in my driveway, and they were hanging over the power wires coming to my house. So I trimmed them so I can better fit the camper and get them away from the wires.
Okay, and did you place those? Why were they placed where they were placed?
I put them next to the trailer because I had some. I was actively working on my camper, replacing the interior.
What were the purpose of placing them there by the trailer?
So I could haul them off.
Okay. Were all of the debris that are on the property debris that came from here at the property?
Yes.
Were they done as part of regular maintenance?
Yes.
Were you doing any kind of yard work for other people or storing debris from any other property?
No.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Any further questions before I want to ask?
You only presented one photo. Did you have others?
I think I gave you 3.
Sorry, I'll show the other 3 if you'd like.
Yes, if you could, sir, thank you. They're just different angles of the same property, I believe. I'll have him describe those.
Okay.
Let me rotate.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I rotate back again.
That's fine. Is it fair to say that those are accurate depictions of what your yard, the distance?
Of course, the other way.
Now, on that photograph, can you describe what's depicted in that photograph?
Okay, this picture right here, I took it out of anger because the gentleman keeps calling and making complaints.
Just describe.
All right, at this point, Madam Chair, I'd object to this. It's not relevant to this case.
I agree. I'm sorry, Mr. Theo, but we can't bring that in right now.
That's okay.
I believe you presented your case. Does the city staff have any, well, I said, does the board have any questions for the owner? And then we'll have the staff get a chance. Anybody on the board have questions for Theo or Simos? Not hearing any. Officer Gaston, do you have any questions for the owner?
I do not.
Would you like to summarize your case?
Yeah, if I could just
first the officer and then you get a turn.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
That's okay. Briefly, the city code doesn't have any provisions that if you're doing landscape maintenance, I don't know at which point this was done. Unfortunately, the property has been established. And so the rules are slightly different because the reason why it was called in, I can't help. I don't understand all those dynamics, although I get it. But it's unfortunate because we have been to code board before on this property before. And I got the complaint. I went out. I get that there's palm fronds that may or may not be from an adjoining tree. There's numerous palm fronds on the property. And as far as the mango branches in the back, I have no reason to think they're not there, but unfortunately they are there and they weren't disposed of properly. And as it was, I believe it still took 3 days to get them disposed of properly. So there's been no qualifying testimony as to when the trimming was done and how long they'd actually been out there. Not that it's relevant anyway, based on the code case. So I believe the city has proven its case. And as stated, he was not in compliance for those 3 days because unfortunately he did have the tree debris on his property. And that's all the city has at this point.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Theo or Mr. Simos, now you get to summarize. Just
yes. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I'd like to at least place on the record that I don't believe that the debris as pictured rises to the level of being a violation. First of all, because if in all honesty, if you look at the photographs and look at what was there, and the purpose for me asking the questions that I did was not to try to belabor the point, but just to give you some input as to if and when you file a fine against the property owner. But that was done as regular maintenance on the property, and the debris that was there was not an excessive amount of debris. I think that would be considered normal maintenance on the property. Now, I understand that the city has indicated that they have previously established the property, but the prior violation was for not cutting the lot. And as you can see in all the photos, including the photos of the violation, none of that exists here anymore. The purpose of making that argument is to say that I don't believe that what is shown in the photograph amounts to a nuisance violation, because in the statute itself, that's what he was charged with being a repeat violator of. And it has to establish that it somehow diminishes the value or creates a threat to health or safety. I would argue that that is no difference than the maintenance that would be done by any other property owner. Now, having said that, I want to confine the rest of my argument to ask the court. Mr. Corfius is fully prepared to pay the cost of the prosecution, which I believe is approximately $89. I don't know if in resetting it, there was additional fees, but if that is the case, he'd be glad to pay that. I am going to ask the board to at least not fine him as far as these violations, or to make it a minimal fine. To speak to as my understanding in looking at the documentation, the letter went out on the 2nd, and I understand how the repeat violators code is interpreted. But my understanding is George Corfius, which is the defendant's father, who doesn't live or reside on the property, received it and opened it up on, I believe, the evening of the 3rd, the morning of the 4th. He contacted Theo right away. The property was brought into compliance the very next day, and then he contacted Mr. Gasson, Officer Gasson, on the morning of the 5th. So technically, the property was out of compliance as far as Theo Corfius was for the 24 hours. All of the items that you see, and I wanted to point out that to the board, that all of the items that were on the property were properly disposed of. They were taken to the city's waste management center. Everything was properly disposed of with receipts, and it was done on the afternoon of the 4th, which is the day that he received notice from his father that was there. So I say that only, again, not to say that the letter didn't go out on the 2nd, but I want you to understand that this is not an individual that was, taking his time or doing anything to avoid the issue. The minute he was told that it was a problem, then he took care of it. I'd ask the board to consider, if you find him in violation, to allow him to pay the outstanding costs, which he's immediately prepared to do, and not to fine him under the circumstances. I would also make the argument, as I indicated before, that I do not believe that this rises to the level of a violation simply because you have some palm fronds. I mean, it did not impact anywhere in the neighborhood or impact the values of any of the other properties around. And it wasn't a large amount of debris where it was drawing rodents or causing any kind of nuisance. So those are the arguments that I'd make. And the only other thing that I wanted to point out, and I know that the board has indicated that, it's not relevant to this case, but Mr. Corfius is in a position where he has a neighbor that is quite, I don't want to say litigious, but has made numerous complaints against property owners throughout the neighborhood. I want to point that out only to show that he's making an extra effort to try to comply. And that's why I tried to point out in my questioning of Officer Gasson, not that those things weren't there, but so that you can understand, the size of the piles and what was actually being done was maintenance on the property. It wasn't like he's running a yard service and he's bringing trash home and keeping it here. So respectfully, that's all I would have to argue today. I would ask the board, if you do find him in violation, obviously he will pay the outstanding cost. I would ask the board to limit any fine to a minimal fine, because he did react immediately and he has been taking an effort to maintain his property in accordance with what the codes call for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public portion of the case is closed. Board, I'd like to, if you're ready, I'd like to entertain a motion. And this will be on a repeat violator motion.
I will. I move that based on the testimony, evidence presented, and law, that the respondent was in violation of sections 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from March the 2nd until March the 5th, a fine of $25 a day for 3 days, or a fine of $75 total. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $87 for the cost incurred in prosecuting the case.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Michelle, call for roll call.
Ms.
Michelle, roll call.
Tellier?
Sorry.
Ms. Tellier?
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet? Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
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 Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Vice Chair Archer? Vice Chair Archer?
Can't hear you. Yes.
Okay. Chair Wade?
Yes. Alrighty, now there were no affidavits of non-compliance. We do have affidavits of compliance.
Ms. Wade, do you want me to go ahead and summarize that last case?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Trask, I forgot. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Corfius, George and Antonia Corfius have been found in violation of the cited code sections for 3 days, and the board ordered a fine of $25 a day. In addition to that, there's an $87 affidavit of prosecution costs that has been received, and the board has awarded those costs as well. There will be an order entered. It will be provided to the property owner at the address listed by the property appraiser's address, and it will be sent within about 10 days. And if you have any questions about what has happened today, please feel free to talk to your attorney, Mr. Angeles, or contact the code enforcement office for any further information.
I'd like to thank the board for their consideration, and we'll take care of the outstanding fines and the costs as soon as possible. Again, I thank you very much for your consideration. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll try not to get so ahead of myself. We have 2 affidavits of compliance. One does have a prosecution cost with it and one does not. So let's hear them separately, please. Could I have a motion to accept item number 7, which is 19-8000439, 649 Kenneth Way Developers.
I move we accept the affidavit of compliance in that case.
We'll just do a voice vote. All in favor?
I need
Give me a second. We need a second.
Second, I'm Sunny.
Thank you. Voice vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. The second affidavit of compliance does have a little prosecution cost with it. This will be item number 20-8000078, 612 South Gross, Melissa Anzalone and Daniel Abbott.
I move we accept the affidavit of compliance in that case. I'm sorry, non-compliance in that case number, and include the prosecution costs of $156.50.
It is in compliance.
It is in compliance. It's an affidavit of compliance.
It's an affidavit of compliance.
Yes.
Does he need to say the motion again, Mr. Trask?
Just want to make sure that it was clear from Mr. Kramer that the motion is to accept the affidavit of compliance and award the prosecution costs of $156.50. Is that your motion, Mr. Kramer?
Thank you, sir. It's correct.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Thank you. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Old business. This will be item number 9 on your agenda. Mr. Patsalides, are you there with us?
We do have a raised hand in the audience.
Thank you. Mr. Patsalides, we'll need to swear you in.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Schmidt. I'm an attorney on behalf of Harry and Anna Patsalides.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Patsalides has presented a petition for reconsideration. So Mr. Trask, will you help me through this one, please?
Yes. So you have a rule in your rules of procedure that talks about affidavits of or petitions for reconsideration of fine. And I'm going to go ahead and read that rule for you.
And can you tell me, is this different from requesting a reduction of the fine? Is
It's
a
the same
different
thing.
rule? Oh, it is the same thing.
Yes, he's not asking for a rehearing. He's just asking for reconsideration. So that would be in relation to the fine. And the attorney will be able to confirm that. But remember now, you don't take any testimony or argument. But I'm going to read the rule. So Rule 5, Section 4 of your rules of procedure that have been in effect for over 20 years. So the rule reads, after a fine has been imposed by the board and within 60 days after the violation is brought into compliance, a violator may petition for reconsideration of a fine. The petition must be in writing, signed by the violator, and include a copy of the affidavit of compliance executed by the code inspector. The petition must include conclusive evidence showing extreme or undue hardship in the payment of the fine or preventing the violator from coming into compliance within the time period established by the board's order. The board secretary shall schedule the petition to be considered, and the board shall make its determination based solely upon the written petition. The board may request information from the code inspector. The board's secretary shall notify the violator by regular mail of the determination made by the board. No petition for the reduction of a fine will be considered prior to the board's acceptance of an affidavit of compliance. Under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced below the costs of the action. Under no circumstances may the amount of the fine be reduced once a foreclosure action is instituted. Additionally, under no circumstances may the amount of the fine for a repeat violation be reduced. That was the reading of the rule for petitions for reconsideration. And you would now review the petition for reconsideration that was filed. And I would remind you that there was additional information or exhibits that were provided to the board just recently that should also be included in your consideration, as well as city staff's response to it.
So since we're not taking testimony, do I need to put those in the file to make sure that they're approved by both sides to be submitted?
It's not evidence, and so it does not
Okay.
need to be. It does not need to be received into evidence.
Okay, thank you.
What's that blue thing behind? The lamp?
So do we just let their attorney have his side?
No, you're supposed to base your decision based solely upon the written petition.
Okay,
So the city should not be able to make oral argument, and nor should the respondent.
okay,
Just review the written documentation and make a decision.
alrighty. So we need someone to make a motion to either accept their, I don't know what to call it.
So let me just jump in. The appropriate action would be a motion to reduce the fine, and then you would state the dollar amount, or deny the petition. Those are usually the two types of motions that you would hear.
All righty. Would someone like to make a motion, please?
I will make a motion in the petition for reconsideration, case number 19-800000484, 385 Whitcomb Boulevard. I make a motion that based on what I get from the city, we do not give a reconsideration of this fine.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Michelle, would you like to get a vote, please?
So just to be clear, the request for reconsideration is denied.
Correct.
That was
Thank
that
you.
was the motion.
Mr. Tellier, Ms. Tellier,
Yes.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Archer, and Chair Wade.
Yes.
So that motion has passed and
The fine reduction request has been denied.
So just a couple other things on the agenda for today. We need to approve previous minutes.
Ms. Chair, there are no minutes on the agenda for today.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments? Mr. Jump?
We have no one with their hand raised at this time.
Thank you. Board or staff comments?
Staff has no comments.
Hearing none from the board? Nobody? Seeing there's no other board business on the agenda, let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.